breathe, don't be terrified. That doesn't help you. Being like super nervous and scared, practicing the handshake for when you meet somebody, or practicing your interview introduction like 100 times, it doesn't really help. Just be yourself and show that and let people see that.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2B podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
Welcome back to another week of the RD2B podcast. This is our podcast where each week we sit down with a different registered dietitian to highlight the diversity of opportunity in our wonderful profession that we've all found. And we are starting to highlight not just dietitians in general, but we're actually focusing on dietetic internships with the DICAS deadline coming up in a couple months here to really showcase the different programs available and hear from the program directors. So we're sitting today with Dr. Ann Gaba from City University of New York School of Public Health Dietetic Internship. Very excited to hear about the program and to hear about the great stuff that both you personally have done with this program and what students need to know. Thanks for being here, Dr. Gaba.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. And as always, I'm Emily, your RD2B from University of Maryland College Park. So Dr. Gaba, I know that you created the CUNY internship. So would you mind going into that a little bit?
Sure. In 2016, the School of Public Health split off from Hunter College to be an independent entity. And when I found myself in this new institution, we decided that we wanted to have a dietetic internship focused on public health nutrition. And so I started the process of accrediting a new program there. And we built this dietetic internship with a focus on public health nutrition to take advantage of the resources that we had at the School of Public Health.
That's great. So when students are applying for dietetic internships, more specifically your program, what do you as a dietetic internship director look for in a candidate?
Well, we look for people that are really interested in public health nutrition and that have maybe had some experience in this area, done some workshops or teaching, or have been involved in community programs, just to have some idea of what public health nutrition looks like, and really are prepared for this kind of work and have an interest in that.
Awesome. So in addition to that, what are some qualities that you think a candidate should have? Like, do you prefer someone well-rounded? Do you prefer someone staying in, working at one place for a long time? What's more appealing to you?
I think you have to kind of be a Jack or Jill of all trades to work in public health nutrition. There's so many different areas that you could wind up in and so many different skill sets that people need. People have done blog posts, they've done videos like you're doing, they've done live teaching, they've done cooking demos, they've done work with children and teenagers and senior citizens. You have to kind of be able to be very flexible and apply nutrition knowledge in a range of different settings.
That's phenomenal. So what do you think that RD2B should know before applying to the internships?
Specifically?
I mean, do you think they should know about the requirements, should know about like the length of the program? Just as an internship director, what's some stuff that you think that candidates should really take into consideration before applying to that specific program?
Of course. Well, you should definitely read the web pages for the programs that you're looking at and look at the length of the program, look at how much it costs, look at where you're expected to live. I mean, New York City can be a little bit expensive for people if they're moving in from out of state. If they know someone in that locality that they can stay with, or if they live there near the programs, that might be something that matters a lot to them, or maybe not. But they need to think about what their needs are going to be as far as where they're going to live, what they're going to do, and if they're interested in that program and what the expectations of that program are, and is it connected to a graduate degree or not, and do they already have a graduate degree? What does their work experience look like? Just, is this a good fit for them?
Mhm. So what do you think interns can do to make your life as a dietetic internship director easier? I'm sure you have so many things on your plate. So what can we do as students to help you out?
Read the directions. I know that interns oftentimes treat me like I'm an AI, like I'm Siri of their internship. And instead of like reading the intern handbook where lots of information is set out for them, they'll just bounce me a text message and ask me for something that they already should know, that already has been set up for them, or ask me their schedule like 10 times. Like, put it on a calendar somewhere, write stuff down, save your emails from your preceptors so you have their contact information if you want to like ask them for a reference for a job, 6 months from now. Just sort of keep track of your own life stuff.
Of course. So since you do juggle around so many students, how many slots do you have and how many applicants do you typically have per cycle?
We have 10 on-site spots and 20 distance spots. So it's a big program, which is maybe why I gripe about managing yourself as much as I do. That 30 people is a lot to have to handle if you're micromanaging everyone. So I just really can't do that. And we typically have around 100 or so applicants per year.
Great. So I know that you have the 10 on site, the 20 off site. So besides for the obvious distance versus in person, are there any other differences between the two programs, like length or anything like that?
The length is the same regardless. I really try to get everybody done in that 9-month window. I'm sort of in favor of the rip the Band-Aid off fast school of thought. I know some people want to draw out their internship and do it part-time or split it up and do coursework in between and take 2 or 3 years to finish. I feel like just get in there, get it done, and take the exam and be an RD and move on.
Great. So speaking of that, how long is your internship and is there any specific reason why it's that duration?
It's 9 months. And it's a 9-month duration because I'm on an academic appointment, which pays me for full-time for 9 months a year. And I don't want to work for free. So I want to get people done by the end of the school year so they can be finished. And a secondary reason is that a lot of the other programs in New York in this area finish their internships in August and September. So when people are going out to take the exam, there's more spots available to go take the RD exam if they finish in June than if they finish in August. And if they're out there taking the exam and getting credentialed before the other people, they can be in the job market faster. And now the job market seems to be very wide open for people, but historically it's always better to kind of get out there quicker.
So since your program is 9 months compared to other programs, specifically in New York, is your program more rigorous? What does that look like since it's more, I don't want to say condensed, but in a shorter time period than others?
It's a little bit condensed. They don't get as much time off as some of the programs do. Sometimes that's harder, sometimes it's better. Sometimes they wish it was 6 months and I could cram everything in faster, but I think 9 months is about the minimum that's humanly realistic.
Great. So what do you think the benefits are of your program specifically compared to other New York programs? I know the surrounding states like Jersey, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania.
I think the public health program, the public health focus of it makes it different. Most of the other programs in this area tend to focus on clinical practice more or maybe food service. They're not as oriented to public health. And I think being a public health program, we've added in rotations in other areas like informatics and policy and research that other programs really don't offer. So it's a good background for a public health practitioner because it gives you it gives you an opportunity to look at a lot of different areas.
So when you were developing this program back in, I believe you said 2016,
Yeah.
were those the things that you had in mind that you wanted to implement in this program, or has it, evolved over time?
No, 2016, when I was looking at it, I didn't want it to just be the three main areas. I mean, a lot of internships do clinical, community, food service, maybe a couple weeks of elective doing something else, and that's it. And I really wanted this to be a broader public health program and get more of my colleagues involved in it. People that were doing research to work with interns, the Policy Institute that we have them do some work with interns and utilize intern labor too to help them do what they do. And then we have a really terrific informatics program. So getting some faculty from that to work with interns where they don't even really know that much about informatics, and they get a really sort of quick summary of that to see if that's something they want to continue with professionally later.
Mhm. So since you are a public health focus and not a clinical focus, what are some electives that you tend to see your students doing or wanting to go into that, I guess, tailors more to the public health aspect opposed to a clinical aspect?
Well, emergency food has been a big area now, especially with the pandemic, a lot of expanded areas and access with that. Nutrition education kind of goes along with that. People are food insecure. They need the education of how to manage their resources and feed themselves and their families as well as they can. So there's been more of that. And then research too. I mean, public health nutrition is just really a burgeoning area for research and asking questions about how can we help people to feed themselves better with limited resources, and what kind of education works and at what stage of life does it need to be implemented, and a lot of stuff like that. And then there are some of our environmental health faculty in the School of Public Health that have also worked with interns on environmental research where they're looking at like toxicology types of things and contamination of vegetable crops and stuff like that. That is a little bit, it's public health related, but it's a little bit more of a biochemistry side of things.
Mhm. So since we've been in a pandemic for the past 20, 21 months, have you seen more students applying to your program because of the public health focus opposed to other internships, or has it remained the same?
I think most directors will have been saying that their application pools have been smaller now. And I think especially for our distance interns, it's been harder because they're trying to find their own rotation sites, and it's just been a challenge during the pandemic to find preceptors that have the capacity to be hosting interns now. So smaller number of preceptors and smaller number of applicants. I don't think it has anything to do with the public health focus. I think it's just everybody's, has struggled with this now.
Mhm. So in your opinion, do you think more people have been going towards I don't want to say in person, but on-site internships because internship directors will help them find preceptors opposed to distance, or?
Not necessarily. I think that's always kind of been the case.
Mhm.
People make that distinction and choose what kind of track they want.
Awesome. And then since your program is 9 months long, would you mind sharing what your exam pass rate is and the job placement rate for your candidates?
Yeah, our last Pearson report or 1 year pass rate was 88%.
Oh.
And our job placement rate is like 90+% at this point.
Wow.
Pretty much anybody that wants to work that's a graduate, even if they're just already eligible and they're waiting to take the exam. I have employment agencies contacting me saying, give me the names and addresses. And I don't really do that. I'll send their information to the alumni and say, if you want to contact this person. But trying to hire people at this point, I think is challenging for some of the programs, and they're really pulling for whoever I've got. Nobody that wants to work isn't working at this point.
Mm-hmm. So where are some places that you see your interns going to after completing your program?
Well, the description I've given, when they talk about why nobody works in hospitals anymore, is it's like the profession's been like the tube of toothpaste that got squeezed in the middle. So the acute care is squeezed and there's not a lot of people doing that as much anymore, but the sicker people go into long-term care. And so a lot of my alumni end up working in long-term care where they did their clinical placements. They like working there and they like having this stable, relatively stable patient population that they can get to know and work with. And then the other half is the prevention side. And I get a lot of people working in community programs. I have a few that are physical trainers that wanted to add nutrition to their repertoire. Community programs, as I was saying, food assistance, education. The Department of Health has hired a bunch of them.
Awesome. So do you know, I don't know if you know this, but do a lot of your interns, that your incoming interns, are they coming from undergrad? Are they coming from masters? Are they older trying to come back in? Would you know that off the top of your head?
This year, it seems like I've got a lot of young ones with bachelor's degrees, and I'm dealing kind of with the consequences of that. My previous year, I had some older people and career changing people, and that's a whole different set of issues because they kind of know what they want, but they're also inexperienced because maybe they were doing something totally different and their expectations are different. I found that the distance program attracts a lot of older people and career changing people because they're already networked. They know people that can precept them, and they also like to kind of control their own schedule and where they're going and when. And so it's a mixed bag every year. We also have a really diverse intern population. We were only 40% white and female in our last self-study.
Wow. So do you think, I know that you said a lot of the students this year came right out of their bachelor's. Do you think there are benefits of students coming to DIs straight after their bachelor's, or do you think it's not really?
I think it depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, I sometimes tell people that public health nutrition is a good place to go if you're confused about what you want to do next. And I don't want to be known as like the program director for people who are confused and don't know what they want to do next. But there's so many different aspects and elements of public health nutrition that you can kind of try things out. And it's always kind of exciting when you see somebody finally get that aha moment and they're like, oh yes, this is what I want to do for the next 5 or 6 years. This thing. And you see the light bulb go off where they've never seen it before. So sometimes having like really young, kind of unspoiled people can be advantageous. But then, the older people will have, maturity and experience and kind of know what they want and have a little bit more of an established plan of what they're trying to do. So they don't need as much direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to have a mixture because then I can kind of introduce them to each other and then they can give each other the stuff that they need, like an older person trying to figure out how to do a tweet. You have like 10 young kids that are like, oh, I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. And then when the younger person is starting out in their rotation site and there's like office gossip or something, or there's political issues at the site that they're completely scared out of their mind when they see, and then their older colleague is like, no, this always happens, don't worry about it. And so sometimes the age discrepancies across the internship can really be a benefit for me, because then I don't have to do everything for them. They can help each other, and then they're networked and they have people that they know that can help them doing that stuff in the future.
Of course. So what is your favorite part of being an internship director?
My favorite part is like seeing the little fledglings leave the nest and do something spectacular with their careers. When I hear back from them, some of them, like one of them was a speaker at Fancy a few years ago when it was still face-to-face. And I was like, oh my God, I saw her name on the program and I was so excited to go see. And she did a great job and I was very excited about that. Or seeing them become preceptors themselves and hear my interns get excited about going to somebody and be like, oh my God, it's this person. And I saw her at this meeting and she's so great. Or, he did this and I was like amazed, and I'm like, yeah, I remember them a few years ago. They weren't like that. And, you can aspire to being this too. So I think like it really makes me feel like my job is worthwhile when I see people get out there and do what they were meant to do.
Great. And then I know your program is not associated with an MPH degree. So with the 2024 accreditation, are you considering combining? I know you have a master's program at CUNY. I was wondering, and I know that 9 credits can be used from the program towards the master's degree. Is there any talk of combining them, or are they going to be 2 totally separate things?
I think we need to at least split it up so that people who already have master's degrees can come in and just do the internship. So we'll probably keep that, keep at least some of the track as independent. And then it's likely that will require people who don't have a master's degree to do our master's degree. And the direction of that, we still have to discuss whether they want them to do the master's degree first and then do the internship as their final project, or do it the other way around. We've had people do it both ways, and it seems to work either way, but we haven't got anything officially determined about that as yet.
Great. And then do you have any advice for students that are going to start going through the application process, or just even undergrads that are in their sophomore and junior year, terrified about what us seniors are going through?
Well, they shouldn't be terrified. Breathe, don't be terrified. That doesn't help you. Being like super nervous and scared, practicing the handshake for when you meet somebody, or practicing your interview introduction like 100 times, it doesn't really help. Just be yourself and show that and let people see that, and then you'll get a better match. Review the information about all the programs that you're interested in carefully, and think about what it would actually be like to do that program. And don't apply to a program that you wouldn't actually be happy to match to.
Mm-hmm.
There's no magic mojo number of programs that you have to apply to that will guarantee that you get your first pick. And definitely put your first choice first in your rankings. There's a lot of people that put like their safety school as their first choice, and then they match there, and then they're mad. Put your first choice first, your second choice second, really rank the things as you really want them.
And then this just came into my mind. This is my last question, I promise. For your distance internship, is it local to the state of New York, or could I in Maryland apply to your distance program and have my preceptors here?
Anybody in any of the 50 states could apply as a distance intern to my program. And we have some this year that are in North Carolina. I have another one in Arizona. I had one in Tennessee previously, one in California. I think that's it so far.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Gaba, for being here, and for all the students listening. I'm sure it is a thankless job in your role, and I commend you for the legacy that you've left and having a program of that size. And like you said, having that little bit of joy for being able to see what the students become, I think is a testament to the legacy. So for those listening, hopefully this was a good overview of a program for you, and be sure to check back each week as we drop a new episode highlighting either a different program or a different registered dietitian.
Thanks for having me.